Are you a movie buff? Do you love dissecting and analyzing your favorite films? Look no further than the Projection Booth podcast. Join host Mike White and a bevy of guest experts as they explore the history, themes, and legacy of cult classics, obscure gems, and mainstream hits. Join us every week for a unique and engaging look at your favorite movies. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and tune in to the Projection Booth podcast, available on all major podcast platforms.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bollywood Cinema Club, where we take a look at Indian cinema every other week. I am the host of the Culture Cast, Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by my good friend. You have heard him here before, but you can hear him and I on a little show all about HBO's Last of Us and all about HBO's Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Your friend and mine. Oh, Hot D. What a terrible name. Your friend and mine, Yashar Pirasteh.
What it do? Let's go to Caxton Hall.
Yeah, let's get real depressing real fast, because on this episode of the Bollywood Cinema Club, we're going to be taking a look at 2021's biopic, I guess, kind of, sort of.
It's a biopic.
Sure, we'll go with biopic. Sardar Udham, the film by Shoojit Sircar, based all on the life of Udham, or not really all on the life, but more on a time and place of the last couple years of the life of Udham Singh. Yeah, the life of Udham Singh, who was a Indian revolutionary and freedom fighter who assassinated Michael O'Dwyer to get a little bit of revenge for the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, which as a Westerner, it's not something I knew about, and we're going to have to talk a lot about it, but just out of the gate, before we talk spoilers, before we talk about the movie, this movie is a rough watch for anybody who wants to watch it. It is a very serious movie. This is probably the most serious movie I've watched Indian cinema-wise. I just want to get this out of the way, like, right now. It is like, this movie's deathly serious to the point where there are no musical numbers.
Which I'm all in. I think, this is a nice, you mix this one with RRR and your brain just melts because you just spent like 6 hours watching like a lot of movie back to back.
A lot of freedom fighting as well.
A lot of freedom fighting. One is more accurate than the other, RRR, as we know.
Well, I mean, when they had those lions jumping out of the cages fighting with people. That movie, I know we've talked about it on a previous episode, Mike White and I did. That movie is without a doubt one of the most fun things I've had the opportunity to watch in a long time. I was enraptured by that movie. But we're not here to talk about that movie. You wanted to watch this movie, not just because you were an Amazon Prime employee, badge number 6458123. But so why did you want to watch Sardar Udham? Neither one of us are Indian, by the way. So it's not like either one of us have a dog in the fight. But obviously, I think we would both agree, these movies don't hit the same way for us that they would for someone who's Indian. I think we could both agree. Like, that's,
yeah.
I don't know how else to put it.
A generation above. It's like watching a movie about like the Civil War or like slavery or even like the Civil Rights movement. I think like although like we have a bit of a cultural connection in the sense of like we grew up learning about these things, at least, until it's newer for us as well. Like it's not only, it's like we've heard about these horrible things happening and now we're seeing it. It's like, actually, we know that the British occupied India and stuff, but I don't think we'd seen this extent of the horrors. Like this one is really bad. And I'm like definitely a pacifist. But I was like,
But you're a pacifist the same reason I am, because neither one of us have had to fight for our right to be free in our own country. Yeah. And that's the thing that's really hard. Like you said, with the Civil War, like even then, like the only frame of reference that Americans really would have, a American as in someone who didn't come here in the last decade from another country, if you are someone who grew up here, the only kind of connection that many people have, I don't, you probably don't, but there are plenty of people in this country who do, to the Revolutionary War. I mean, that's really what this is in a lot of ways. Our country getting freedom from the British, but obviously the Indian independence movement took from 1857 to 1947. So it's a much more extended period of time, and the British they treated the Indians terribly because they didn't look like them. I mean, they treated the Americans terribly too, but I'm not going to say that they didn't, but I'm not going to go as far as to say it's not as bad as what we saw in this movie.
Yeah. No,
or in real life, I guess.
Because they were British people that went just over to America, whereas these are like, Indian people. It's so to your point, it's basically about this guy who you learn about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and essentially the outcome of that has really left a strong impression on this character, or not character, it's a real person, Udham Singh, who basically becomes a Indian revolutionary. He goes to jail for some sort of revolutionary. We don't know the exact thing he did, but it just seemed like he was in some sort of organization trying to rebel against the British. He gets out, goes to England for a very long time, like a decade or something like that, and essentially plots to kill the guy, Michael O'Dwyer, who was the governor of Punjab, he was the guy that essentially gave the okay for the massacre. And just for some context to what the massacre is, it was essentially they were protesting a law that I did some Wikipediaing.
It's the Rowlatt Act.
The Rowlatt Act, which would have basically allowed due process to be skipped for like political dissidents and for them to be like expedited to jail and sentenced. And, it seems like a reasonable thing to protest against. And as a way of quelling the protest, which was a nonviolent one, the governor's like, make it basically not about this. I want them to fear protesting in the future. And like, I want to send a message. So he sends a general with more of a backbone for it to do his bidding, essentially. And the dude just opens, well, not him, but he has his troops open fire, and like I think it's like thousands of protesters, and over 1,000 died, hundreds more hurt, and that was I think one of the big sparks to really like get a lot of support for the Indian independence from England, because I think not that things were always great beforehand, but I think that one was especially bad in the context of like the British occupation of India. And it was something I hadn't really heard about before. And so,
well, I mean, to the point of Winston Churchill denouncing it, and the British Parliament denounced, Michael O'Dwyer's conduct. I mean, it's not like the British government stood by it, but the British government was already there. I mean, that couldn't have happened if they hadn't been there.
Yeah, it's not like they were like, hey, do this thing. But like they enabled this person who did this horrible thing.
Right.
And
ostensibly, again,
he wasn't the cause.
Right. But I mean, at the same time, like the treatment of the Indians by the British, it was not pleasant. It was not positive. And it's not, you can say it's fictionalized, and in RRR, it's really over the top, and there's guys getting whipped in the public square, but that was happening. And what you see in the final act of this movie is essentially recreation of that massacre. And it is awful. I mean, it's like, it is just, I don't get emotional at movies all the time anymore, given how many I have to constantly watch, but I wanted to turn it off. And not only did I want to turn it off, but it was so effective that I wanted to turn it off. I mean, it was successful in what it was doing, so I didn't turn it off. But that was the intention of the creators, was to put you right in there to the point of feeling uncomfortable. And I appreciate that, because again, like, as a Westerner who did not have any frame of reference for this singular event, to be essentially in the middle of it, I'm not going to forget about this anytime soon, if ever.
No, it actually reminded me of, do you watch the Watchmen show that Damon Lindelof created? Are you familiar with any of it at all? Because there's like a really, the Tulsa, do you know the Tulsa Massacre? There's an episode that opens with like the Tulsa Massacre, which I had never heard about before. And actually, like, it was a big deal when Watchmen came out, 'cause it was like the first time a lot of people in America had heard about it. And like the Tulsa Massacre, basically, if you don't know, Black Wall Street essentially was this place in Oklahoma, early 1900s, where actually like black people were really wealthy and doing well despite like segregation and all that stuff. And essentially there was a riot, and a bunch of them were murdered by a bunch of white people who didn't like them. I mean, there's slightly more nuance to that, but basically that's what happened. And it's something that's essentially swept under the rug. Like, even in Tulsa, it's not really acknowledged, right, in modern days. And so it's like crazy to see these horrible things like happen, and they're so visceral. And this, like the Tulsa Massacre, like, this actually happened almost the same year as that. Like, it's in relatively recent history these things are happening, and
in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
To the point where they mention at the end of the movie, and again, obviously the movie has a bias, and rightfully so. It's made by an Indian filmmaker. They make a point to mention that the British government still hasn't apologized, because to apologize would admit guilt, and who knows what it would open the British government up to. But it's, to your point, it is so contemporary that they're still addressing it 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. Yeah. Like, that's, it's not like 1776. This is contemporary, would have been the last 100 years, 4 years ago.
And you see how this thing like haunts this guy, and it becomes like all he can think about do. Like, it's for him, it's getting revenge and justice are the same thing. And I think the movie does ask a question, like, are revenge and justice, like, is justice served by his actions? And I think, like, I have mixed feelings on it. Like, I'm like, yes and no. Like Vicky Kaushal, I'd never seen him before. I think he's relatively like newcomer in the Indian movie scene, because he's like our age, essentially. Our age, yeah. He does look older, but I guess they played him up too. He has like a really good performance where he's like, he speaks like really broken English, but it's very effective, because this is a guy who he's sort of trying to assimilate into British society, but only because he needs to do that just to get close to the Michael O'Dwyer character, which they also have an interesting relationship. And
I think they could have gone further with it. I mean, again, I don't know if that's real. I assume that that's dramatized for the sake of the movie, to kind of give us a back and forth between the two, to give them the conversation they never got to have in real life. But
maybe,
I mean, again, like, that didn't happen. I don't think, like, and even if it didn't happen that way. But like, I appreciate when a movie is, because this movie, again, is a biopic, but, I was reading some kind of information online and some reviews, and some of the reviews out of India were talking about how the movie doesn't address Udham Singh's time in Africa. It doesn't really address the amount of stuff that he did in Africa to help there. And it kind of glosses over some stuff. And it's really more about him killing Michael O'Dwyer and what it took for him to get there. It's not really about his life. I mean, even if you go read about him on Wikipedia or look into his life, it's not like people know a lot of what he was doing. He was underground intentionally, because they were looking for him. They knew who he was, and they wanted to find him. The British government did.
Yeah. Like, he was already, even though they released him from prison, I think because he had been involved in like revolutionary activity in the past, like, he was kind of a high priority. Like, we got to keep an eye on this guy. And in the movie, it does say like he has some relationship with like the communist government of like the USSR, but they're not super involved, because I guess it's also at the same time World War II is starting. Right. Is kind of when like when he really starts upping he gets there between World War I and World War II, but like about halfway through his time in England, World War II begins. So it's like even the revolutionaries, like the community of Indian people he's there with, are like, now stop. the best time because there's obviously a huge war going on, and he goes to the Russians for help, and the Russians are like, now's not a good time. Although when is a good time for a revolution? But so you have this backdrop of World War II that it never really takes the foreground, but it's always there, and you remember like there is like a political unrest going on outside of what's going on in India, which has its own fight for independence at this time as well.
And how do you feel about the non-linear narrative structure of the film? I kind of liked it, but it feels really overused in Indian cinema, at least contemporary Indian cinema. They use a lot of this like flashbacking stuff, and I've talked about it before on this show, which lends to the length of the movies because it needs to tell two stories to get the full story, right? But I liked it here, but it was very confusing at times.
Yeah.
It wasn't clear wins. It was similar to something we dealt with in Game of Thrones because it was jumping around. It felt like I've mentioned, things got glossed over. And even I could tell things were getting glossed over, even not knowing Udham Singh's entire life history.
Yeah. To that point, it's like in the context of the way the movie was built, I think it works. But I also don't think I loved it. Like, I think if the movie was told a bit more linearly, it may have been better. The only thing that is maybe effective, that's done effectively, is the Jallianwala Bagh flashback, because you kind of like, I understand his anger, but it's like I don't really understand it. And if it started with that, maybe it makes it easier to follow him. But it's more impactful because then you're like, oh shit, like this dude's anger was justified. Now I think that flashback was about 20 minutes too long, especially because of how long the movie was getting us to that point. Like maybe if they streamlined some of the earlier stuff and then had that flashback, really impactful. But I also was checking out a bit, like by like the 10th time of him dragging bodies, because it's like, I get it. You're not really telling me anything anymore. You're not like, my emotions aren't getting any stronger. Like this was a horrible thing, but you've taken so long to get me to this point. Like, I kind of want to see what happens next. And maybe I'm just a heartless bastard, but that was my reaction. Like the actual massacre scene, and like when he first saves the first couple people, I was like, damn, this is intense. But I was starting to glaze a little bit. Well,
and I completely agree with you. They use this kind of non-linear, disjointed narrative to jump between after he got arrested and before, but then at the end of the movie, you notice that he's been, he's sentenced, he's going to die. There's like 45 minutes left in the movie, almost an hour. And you're like, okay, I know that they're going to have to do the Jallianwala Bagh thing at some point, but like yourself, I did not expect it to be an hour. And it is an hour, more or less. It takes you from the moment he starts talking to Swain until the end of the movie, essentially. And it is just, like you said, it wears you down in a way that it's got to be intentional, obviously. Shoojit Sircar was going for exactly this, to kind of wear you down emotionally as an audience member, but I don't feel like it's needed. I feel like with that initial scene of watching people getting murdered, children being stepped on, people having their arms and legs shot off, and bullets it's graphic in a way that like these kinds of things are not. I can't tell you the last time I saw a movie where I saw that many children being shot and like it being shown just clear as day.
Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith.
What about the younglings? It's just in that vein of like shocking for shocking's sake. It totally works, but to your point, I don't need to see him go back for the 5th or 6th time to drag those bodies out, because it doesn't matter. Like, what does it matter now? We have seen how bad this can get. It can't get any worse. Like, how much worse can it get?
And to your point, like, I do think because of the disjointed storytelling, that's what hurts it. Like I said, if this had happened at the beginning, I could have been like, okay, this is following like a straight narrative, so it makes sense why we keep seeing this thing. But this one, I'm like, I know the movie's near the end. It's not going to tell me anything new at this point. Like, I now understand his anger. You need an editor, and I read some people say, well, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable, and I'm like, it's not that I was too uncomfortable. Like, yes, I was just like. It actually made it less impactful, because then I was just waiting to like go on. Like when he's sentenced, I was like, oh, this is actually like, this would be like a pretty good ending for the movie. But to your point, I was like, oh shit, we have 40 minutes left. And I think there's a great movie in here, it's just a bit too long. But I really like the performances. I think the lead's good. I think the guy that plays O'Dwyer, Sean Scott, is like just deliciously not like mustache twirling evil, but just
he's bureaucratically evil. It's like that high society bureaucrat evil.
The old white man, like sort of ethnocentric, almost
imperialist.
Yeah, imperialist. Like we're doing this for their own good, and he believes it. That's just like an old kind of evil that it's just so wrong because like these people are so unwilling to consider anything else, and like your hate for him does simmer a bit, and you're definitely not upset when he is assassinated.
And to your point from earlier, it's a question of like, does the do the crimes fit the punishment, right? Because obviously, I mean, Udham Singh he makes it his life mission to kill Michael O'Dwyer. I mean, the term singular, if you put the term singular focus in a dictionary and look it up, you'd find a picture of Udham Singh, because his singular focus is to, again, in this movie, mind you, not in real life. He was doing other things in real life. That's why it's like kind of people were getting a little disappointed that they kind of glossed over the other things that he did do. It's just his singular focus is so they had to make Michael O'Dwyer as terrible as he probably was in real life, but you had to really get a sense of that. I felt like they could have done more. I felt like there could have been more interactions between Udham Singh and Michael O'Dwyer. Given that they put it in there already, they could have had more interactions between the two of them.
Well, and to your point, like the singular vision, it's like, but he was in England for like a decade. He had found this guy way beforehand. Like, why did he spend so long? And the movie kind of uses its disjointed timeline to be like, we're just going to skip these times because we don't really know why he wouldn't do anything for 3 years. And he does. He kind of befriends him, works for him, has so many chances to kill him, doesn't kill him. And then the movie does sort of explain it. He says, well, if I murdered him as a employee, I just come up as a disgruntled employee and I dilute my message. And it kind of it makes it also seem like he wanted to give him a chance to say like maybe he repents or feels bad about it, so then at least I could be like, you did a horrible thing, but you don't deserve to die.
And what is that weird messaging though? Like for the movie, that's kind of, let's let this fucking guy go by. Here's the question. So Michael O'Dwyer in real life was part and parcel to the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, right? Do you think he felt any remorse? Because the movie giving him the opportunity to be remorseful and he's not, I appreciate it. I wonder, like, that weird story beat doesn't kind of work if you think about it. Him meeting, like, Udham Singh meeting Michael O'Dwyer and then like going and like spending some time together. It doesn't make a lot of sense the way that they do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess the thing is when he first meets him, I'm like, why doesn't he just shoot him right there?
Right. Like, why? Do you think Udham Singh gave Michael O'Dwyer an opportunity to repent? Is my question, because that's what the movie is kind of.
The movie does that,
but like, why? That's a weird thing to kind of get at, right? Because I don't know if I assume Michael O'Dwyer believed that what he did was right until the day that he was shot.
He died. Yeah.
Why even pretend like Udham Singh would have given him I don't believe the real Udham Singh gave the guy an opportunity to repent. Do you? Like,
I mean, it is a bit confusing. I feel like if you think about that whole, like I said, that whole series of interactions they have, it kind of like, you're like, well, I don't understand why he wouldn't have killed him earlier.
Right. But the real Udham Singh totally would have.
Yeah. It's there for dramatic tension. I didn't dislike their interactions. Like I was like, this is kind of interesting little movie. But I think knowing how it ended and knowing like the central thrust of the movie, I had trouble reconciling the two. It's like it's almost a different movie. It's like this character is actually a bit more complex than the Udham Singh that we're following throughout the whole movie, who really just cares about one thing. And like you kind of see him befriend some of the Indian revolutionaries in London, and they kind of are put to the side. So yeah, I didn't really. It didn't mesh. Like it was effective, but didn't mesh with the rest of the movie.
Well, and again, obviously this movie has a pretty anti-British slant, right? And I don't think it's undeserved. I don't think it has any bearing on, outside of the British government hasn't apologized. I don't think it has like a bearing on the British people or Britain as a whole, any the contemporary Britain and all.
Not modern. Yeah.
Right. But what's interesting is even the character, like, even though that's the case, they really had to, because of the story and the way that they told the story and his singular focus being all they focused on, they had to make Michael O'Dwyer this like pretty much a mustache twirling villain. Like those scenes act as the singular reason outside of the actual massacre that we see, which doesn't need any more. Like, what else do you need, frankly? That, like you've said, it almost feels unnecessary to the point of it's like that. It's like the massacre. It has the same problem that the massacre scene does. It's excessive. I don't think Udham Singh and Michael O'Dwyer ever interacted outside of the one time that they did, which was when we shot him. So what did anyone think was needed to reinforce that Michael O'Dwyer is a terrible human being and needed to be punished for Udham Singh's beliefs outside of what he did at the massacre? Like it just pads out the length of a movie that's already almost 3 hours long. And I don't complain about the length of these movies most of the time, but this may be a case where the movie is just way too long. Like like it's almost an hour too long.
I agree. I agree with you there. I will say the court scene like was effective. Like once he's arrested and caught, and he like kind of gives his speech about the oppression of India and how he's not a killer, he's a revolutionary. Like I found all that really effective, but it was also like felt a bit rushed. Like
it was oddly truncated. Let's just like.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was supposed to say like, hey, he didn't really get a fair trial because of like of his extra. If it was just edited weirdly, because it's like you after almost being tortured, he seemed to be given like a pretty competent attorney who seems like a decent dude, but then he just basically objects a few times, and then Udham Singh gives a couple like really effective responses, not like a full speech, but like this is why I did it, and then the judge is like, you're guilty, you're being hung on. It just that felt, the pacing was really weird. It was like effective but rushed in a 3-hour movie,
right? Well, and to your point earlier about the weird broken English thing that they do where he's speaking in broken English, like that was an opportunity to really like give him that. If there's any moment in the movie to give Udham Singh his moment, it's that moment there. And they robbed the character. Like, I get that it happened in real life, but you have already injected this movie with a fair amount of seemingly fiction and or decided to gloss over things that happened in real life for the sake of streamlining your narrative. But you removed a substantial amount of emotional weight from this movie by truncating that scene. Because you can go and read what Udham Singh said in real life. And they even truncated that for the movie.
Oh, so he didn't say like his full spiel.
No, they kind of like they kind of I don't know if you would say contemporaryized it, but kind of. But again, like, why do that? Like, this is the one opportunity that the character really gets throughout the entire film to, outside of the kind of scene that he has with the homeless man in the park.
Yeah.
This is the other scene where he really gets to, even though Michael O'Dwyer's not there, he gets to really condemn the British government. And it's not enough. It's so not enough that it sticks out that it's not enough, to the point where you noticed it and I noticed it. And I feel like anyone watching this would be like, all right, but he didn't even get even in a movie like this, he didn't get his own moment.
Yeah, like he did. Like, I think what he said was effective, but it just felt, it just felt rushed.
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough, or they didn't give him enough time, and like they're sentencing a man to death, and it probably was as truncated in real life as it is in the movie. But again, you've already injected fiction into your movie. Why not make that scene a bigger thing? Snip more time out of these scenes with him and his girlfriend sitting out and eating together. Like there's so much in this movie that just is, like you've mentioned, they just do it like 2 or 3 times. They show him and his girlfriend 2 or 3 times together doing the same thing. Like,
and the girlfriend thing is interesting because it's like, I may have a crush on the actress, but that notwithstanding, I was like, A, is this part real? And I'm not sure if that was. And then B, I was like, if that's not real, do you really need her to add the, like, this is why it was revenge, because not just this horrible thing happened, but like his girlfriend died, which is horrible. But also I'm like, if I saw that like kind of carnage, I don't know if I would need, and I don't know if that my girlfriend being dead versus the 1,000 other people, including my friends and stuff, being dead, like that would have been enough to throw me over the edge. Like, it kind of trivializes the loss the other people had. Like I said, if that happened in real life, fine, I'm being ignorant.
It's like a really nuclear Bond villain that goes, I'm going to kill your wife and your daughter and your dog and your pet lizard and your fish. And then I'm going to go kill your family too. And it's like, you don't have to do all that to prove a point. And it's like, it's the same thing with the having Udham Singh and Michael O'Dwyer interact. It's like, you don't have to give us more reason for us to understand why Udham Singh is angry. It is apparent. We have to watch this scene for an hour to I don't need to watch it for an hour to understand it, but that's like, what they do anyways.
You cut her scenes, you see the flashback of him just, coming out and all these people are dead and he's saving them. I get it.
Or even his friend, because mind you, he's not there, and his friend comes in and is bleeding all over the place. He's like, they opened fire on us. Is that not enough? I mean, what more has to be there?
I don't think anyone's watching that being like, oh, the massacre was bad, but they got his girlfriend. Like, that's why he it's going to come out later. It's like, no, it was his girlfriend. But I honestly think that was for the movie's sake. And it didn't, it's not like it wasn't impactful. But in the context of it being such a long movie that already had a lot to say, it does seem like we could have focused on the trial or the legal aspect or more of his time in London rather than kind of on these things that are supposed to engender more of an emotional response from us when I feel like we're already there.
And I couldn't find any information if Udham Singh had a girlfriend that was there. That was mute. Yeah. It's such a contrivance. It's a film. It is a narrative contrivance for what, again, why? There, movie, what you're going to be showing us in the last hour. Do you really think that's not enough? Because that's enough on its own. And it's too much on its own, frankly. I mean, we've already talked about how that scene ends up being too much. Why do you feel like you have to make it like paint a fucking bullseye on their forehead to make us really understand? It is apparent why Udham Singh is angry and why Udham Singh feels like he has to go and commit an act of violence to react to acts of violence. Like, it's not, and Vicky Kaushal's performance is so good that you don't question it. He's so good. He carries this movie by himself. There's not really anybody else in this movie. No, frankly, there are, but you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like anybody else's movie. It feels like Vicky Kaushal's movie, and everybody else is kind of coming in. It's like a one-man show, really, and everybody else just kind of comes in for a scene or two, but he is why you're here. He makes the movie not feel 3 hours, even at its most draggiest moments, like these later Bog massacre scenes.
And he's simmers underneath. Like, you're like, there's something not evil, but something violent and angry in him. And you can just feel that in all of his interactions and the way he carries himself and the loss and the anger and just his almost feelings of disappointment within himself and how much he's done because he's moved to London and it's I can't even do this thing. I'm just living among these people and I'm not speaking my truth or living my truth. And he is a truly powerful presence on the screen, even with the broken English. I watch the subtitles. I think most people do, but it's sometimes a bit hard to understand what he's saying as he's mixing, I think, Hindi with English. Literally, it's hard to follow, but he's still able to make it where you're I get just his emotions are apparent to me. I understand what he's feeling, what he's trying to communicate, and I think that was intentional. By the director to have him communicate. Where sometimes you're I don't literally know what he's saying, but I can feel what he's saying.
Right. No, you're right. He is such a presence on screen, and he looks so different from the way he normally even looks as an actor. He really kind of transforms into Udham Singh, and he is a presence. He is a presence on screen. He really is. I don't know if he is Amitabh or SRK levels of charisma, and I would be really curious to see him in a movie that is relying on his charismatic aspects as opposed to kind of the kind of more serious dramatic aspect of his ability as an actor, because I feel like he's probably a really charismatic actor as well. I don't know, and I haven't seen him in anything else, but he does such a good job even with this really serious drop dead serious role that I can't help but assume he's just clearly he's a very talented actor, but I assume he also has a lot of range, because it almost feels like to be a successful actor in Indian cinema, you really have to be able to have a lot of range. You can't just be...
They have a lot of tonal shifts in their movies.
Yeah, yes, for sure. I will tell you, though, this movie is, for all of its kind of flaws that we've already talked about, very Western in its filmmaking sensibilities.
Oh yeah, it also looks like the cinematography is excellent. I think there's a couple times that there's clearly CG and it's sketchy, but like I would say overall, like it looks like it's very crisp. Like even the things that look old and raggedy, it's like they're very immaculately done. The sets look great. The Indian part, like the parts in India look. I mean, I'm sure they're shot there, at least partially looks great. Parts in Old England look great. Like it, even though it's a pretty dour movie, it's kind of great. It's got this crispness to it that makes it enjoyable to watch. And yeah, you're right. It did feel like very Western, and maybe a lot of it takes place in London too, which probably leads to that.
There's a lot of English in this movie.
A lot of English in the movie. Yeah,
a lot of English. A lot of English speakers.
Yeah, I would say like probably like a third to half the dialogue is in English.
Yeah. I enjoyed the movie for what it is. I just, these kinds of movies don't really animate me, even in Western cinema, like a serious biopic, historical drama about a real life person. Like I would rather read about them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that weird? Like,
no. I think I get that. The reason I think I wanted to watch it was you wanted to talk about like a Indian movie. I think the more contemporary things that I've seen from like Indian cinema, I've tended to enjoy more than the older ones. And this just had really good reviews. So I didn't really know much I knew nothing about the story other than I knew it was vaguely historical, like the movie.
Right.
So it's not like there was any intentionality around the story that I was trying to do by choosing this. It was just, hey, I heard this is good. And it is Indian cinema.
And it's a Prime Video movie.
It's because Amazon's actually invested a decent amount in like their Indian movies and shows.
There's plenty of
Netflix
movies that we've talked about on this show that can be found on Prime Video. So
yeah, I mean they this was like I don't think that it's necessarily an Amazon Studios production, but they like got the exclusive rights and
they distributed it.
Yeah. So
which is awesome. Yes. I mean, again, as someone who is obviously heavily invested in Indian cinema, like it's nice to see Prime Video not investing in a American-made Indian cinema film, but an Indian cinema film being made in India by Indian directors, Indian filmmakers, Indian actors, and cinematographers and editors. I am really excited to see if Amazon continues to put money into Indian cinema because, again, obviously, it is a world of cinema that so many Americans and Westerners in general really would be interested in. Like, how many people would love this movie that are into these kinds of movies that it's just
they
like
just don't know it exists.
Yeah, like it's right in the wheelhouse, or they don't want to read the subtitles. I mean, again, like I get it, but I don't, because you have essentially ruled out so many movies that you could watch. But it's really nice to see Prime and Netflix putting movies from Indian cinema on there, but also producing and, distributing them.
And this definitely doesn't look like this movie couldn't have been cheap to make.
Right. Well, and, I've said this before on other episodes of other shows, but a movie looking nice, like looking high quality, is that really anything to get excited about anymore in 2023? Like, shouldn't your movie look nice? Like, a digital camera can be purchased by you or I for a couple $1,000. It's not even prohibitive for you or I to make something look nice.
But I'm saying this movie does have like some quite big set pieces, like the stuff. And so it's not even just like, it looks nice in the context of, it looks nice in a hallway or it looks nice in a house. It's like, no, the outside looks nice, and they have a lot of people in these scenes, and there's some ambitious filmmaking going on.
But I really think, and again, this is probably my biggest complaint with the movie, and we've kind of talked about it already, but I think it kind of bears repeating. I think my issue with the movie is it really does almost feel like they put all of their time, energy, and focus into the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Honestly, to the film's detriment. It feels like if they had wanted to make a movie about that, they should have just made a movie about that. You know what I mean? Because it's an hour on its own. It could have just been its own thing with characters who were there, or set an entire movie about that. Well, it kind of feels it's weird that it's part of this. It's not weird that it's part of this movie, but it feels very much, again, like a plot contrivance.
I think what hurts it is because it happens, like I said, late in the movie, but also we don't really see the aftermath other than him just wanting to kill Michael O'Dwyer. Like, we see him go to jail years after that because he joins the revolutionaries, but we don't really see like how, why, what he did. So like you have this really impactful thing that makes him do another thing that sends him to jail. But we don't really see what that is. It's like vaguely hinted at the beginning of the movie. And then it drives him to do this thing in the end. And so like, I think it does by skipping the immediate impact it has on him and how it developed him, and just kind of saying this bad thing happened, skip some years, he's this person now, and go ahead. Like, it hurts it. So if you're going to spend that much time on the massacre, maybe spending a bit more time saying, okay, this was his journey in the immediate aftermath, so we can kind of understand a bit better, because we had to fill in a lot of the gaps ourselves, which it wasn't difficult to do considering the context of the movie, but I do think maybe made it didn't all work together as smoothly as I would have liked.
Well, and I think also, to your point, I mean, there's plenty of stuff at the the early first, second act of this movie that's just he's walking through the wilderness of Russia, and that's like 5 minutes, and then he's just walking around and interacting with people, and that's another 10 minutes. The movie wants to show you everything that happened in Udham Singh's life after the massacre, but it doesn't. It shows you him getting to London, and that's it. There were things going on there that he was doing, and it's not a movie about Udham Singh. It kind of feels like he's not the focus of the movie, even though he is.
It's not about who he is, it's about what he does.
Right, which is like not the way you do a biopic. I guess it is. Again, it's weird. It almost feels like it's more about the massacre and the massacre as the jumping point for the Michael O'Dwyer assassination. But even the Michael O'Dwyer assassination isn't given enough weight or time in the movie because of this disjointed narrative. It happened. Everything happens at the beginning of the movie is what it feels like. And then we're spending the rest of the movie unpacking what happened. But because we don't know the context of the things happening when they did happen, there's no weight to them. And I could go back and watch this for a third time, given that I've watched it twice, but I don't want to watch it
twice?
I did, because I wanted to see, knowing how the movie played out narratively, how those initial scenes felt. And they didn't feel any better. They didn't feel any different, knowing that, again, because the first time you watch a movie, you're not going to know where it's going. You're not going to know the narrative flow, but watching it a second time, you get a better sense of certain things and can focus on certain things. And while, again, those scenes did have some weight, like when he shoots Michael O'Dwyer, they still fell flat, knowing where the movie goes, because it just kind of happens. Not that it needs to be given pomp and circumstance and fanfare, but you need to give this kind of blow off of this entire movie. You got to give it more weight than just, well, it happens and now he's in jail. It really felt like the movie was rushing to get to the massacre recreation, which, again, perfectly fine. But why tell the story of Udham Singh then?
I guess it's like what was the point of the movie? Is the point of the movie to like make us understand this man? Is it to highlight the atrocities that the British did? Is it all of it could be all of the above.
Right.
And I think that is kind of what the movie was trying to do, but maybe it would have been better to bit more focused. I think the performances were amazing. The overarching story is interesting and compelling, and it's because it is essentially true. It's like crazy, and like there's an emotional heft to the massacre. It's just, you have these really great puzzle pieces that generally fit, but I think I left feeling there's a way where it would have fit really well. And it could have really come together and been gone from like a good film to like a excellent film.
And we're kind of in the minority here. The overwhelming response to the movie is rather positive, but
I mean, we are positive.
Right. I think we're obviously pretty critical about some things in the movie. It was really well regarded when it came out in 2021. Vicky Kaushal won the best actor by the critics at the 67th Filmfare Awards last August. So again, well-regarded movie. Just, I don't know. And again, like I said this already, like this kind of movie, I enjoyed this movie more than I would have if I had watched a Western version of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I do not seek these kinds of movies out. I have never seen Schindler's List. You know what I mean? Like,
Schindler's List is amazing.
I know.
I watched that pilot. It's
I've never
It's
seen
amazing.
it though, but like I've never seen it for the same reason that I wouldn't search out a movie like this, because I don't like
It is a
burdening
bummer.
myself. I don't like burdening myself with bummer entertainment when we live in the world that we live in. Entertainment's kind of an escape, you know? And the last thing I want to escape into is thousands of Indian people being fucking massacred in a essentially like a closed off space. So the thing I wish that they had shown more of, and not because I want to be grotesque, but because I think it was an interesting thing when researching it, the well that people were throwing themselves into to try and escape being shot. There's a well in Jallianwala Bagh that the people were throwing themselves into, and then they were fucking drowning in the well.
Jeez, I didn't even know. I mean, there was so much going on in that scene. That like, and the actual massacre itself was very impactful. Like,
yeah, it was like we really kind of dragged it a little bit, because it is the later part of it goes on too long, but
the aftermath of the massacre.
Yeah, but my God, it's like
long.
Fucking say it is as grotesque and gory and brutal as the first 15 minutes of Saving Private Ryan are. Like, no exaggeration, no hyperbole.
And I couldn't help but think that like there probably is like a heft of realism to this. Like, I don't think it was over the top to like see that, but I don't think it was actually over the top of like the experience of those people that were there. I'm like, actually probably would have been something like this, and
they were shooting them with 303s, which is a very large caliber round, which would blow your hand off if somebody shot it at your wrist at close range.
And that's what happens in the movie. And we see like they were, like the stuff I read online was saying they were actually in an enclosed place where like they couldn't easily escape, and that the movie does show that like people were essentially rounded up.
The exit was blocked. There's one exit out of this place. Yeah. It's essentially like a courtyard. It's a 6-acre courtyard. They probably didn't even really do it justice, which is the fucking horrifying part. If you think about it, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, obviously it's way worse, but I'm saying like, I didn't feel like, it was overly dramatic. Like I was right. Like, no, this is actually a good telling of how fucked up this situation was.
And man, I appreciate that at the end of the movie, they include those two little like recreations of the Hunter Commission where they're talking to Dyer and they're like, well, since the passage was too small for you to get your armored cars in, if it had been,
the machine guns,
would you have if you could have? And he's like, yep. And they're like, well, do you think more people would have died? And he's like, yep. Like, yeah, thank God they couldn't get the cars in there, because holy shit, can you imagine that? No,
they would have just killed everyone there.
Right, because those guns were probably at least maybe 50 cal guns on like an armored car. Like, I have no idea what caliber, but it's bigger than the rifles. And I saw what the rifles were doing to the people. And again, like, we have become desensitized to violence as Westerners, given I know you do. You play video games that are rather violent. I play video games that are rather violent. But when you shoot violence the way that they were shooting it in this movie, very matter of fact, very just, here it is, look at it. You don't look at it. Like, don't look away. Like that kind of violence, when it's shown like that, like at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, it sticks with you. And for me, as successful as Vicky Kaushal is in the movie, that will be what sticks with me from this movie. Out of everything, I can't help but wonder if you feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that sees this movie, that's what's going to come to mind is that scene. And to your point about the violence, I think anytime, I don't know what it is, but there's like a connection when you know something is like real or based on something real. Like if it was just a fictional movie, I'd probably be like, oh, that's fucked up. But like, I'm like, no, these people like actually had to suffer this thing. Like, that's her. Like, I was thinking, I was like, how could you as a soldier
Indian
like,
too, an Indian soldier.
Indian soldier. Like it's not like this is one of the things like you have to know this is fucked up.
They were per their belief, they were breaking the law.
Well, yeah, but I'm not. We all can agree on breaking the law. But then it's like, I mean, this is like a.
But if the laws are unlawful, breaking the law doesn't matter, right? And that's
no. Or it's just like, is it okay? They broke the law. Like, is it worth just getting? Anyway,
well, the law was the Rowlatt Act was so expansive and awful in what it was like you said at the beginning of this, like you can't help but obviously for a multitude of reasons empathize and sympathize for why they were protesting it, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
To make protesting illegal, like,
okay,
yeah, like what do we have to say about that? Like, what do we have to say other than no, not a good idea? You know, and I think also as much as I did like that scene, I think it just does undercut everything else that the movie's trying to do in like the best kind of worst way, if that makes sense. Like, I'm glad that the scene exists in the movie because it's so well done and it is such a impactful recreation of something so terrible, but it kind of just sucks the air out of the rest of the movie, which is unfair to Vicky Kaushal because his performance is so good. He doesn't deserve to be in a movie where there's this giant insano ass scene at the end of the movie that just sucks the air out of the movie. You don't remember anything that happened before it. And
yeah, you do kind of forget like where you're at, like, and you're telling this guy's story, like you're this is like the conclusion of his life. It's like, wait, where are we at? What happened again? Like, oh, he's been sentenced to death, and
he's like telling it before he gets walked down to get hung. Like, it's like, hey, why did you do this? Well, funny you should ask that question. Let me put on a kettle and I'll tell you my story. It's like, because
the inspector's like, you're not a killer. Like, so he's like, I know you're not a killer. So like, what thing possibly could have happened to make you a killer? And he's like, well, let me tell you.
Yeah, but buddy. It just everything before that, I don't remember it as vividly, even having watched the movie twice, because once that scene happens, it's kind of hard to remember anything else or even think about anything else. And the movie could have prevented a little bit of that by not drawing it out the additional 20 minutes after it happened.
Yeah.
Because the initial massacre is like, 5-10 minutes? And then the additional stuff is so much unnecessary. Udham Singh being the body carrier. Like at some point, it's like, what are you mining here? And all they're doing is undercutting the rest of the movie. Because then after the flashback, it's all right, now he's dead. That's literally, it's just, and now he's dead. He talks to his wife or girlfriend because they never really make it clear how she's connected to him, if she's married to him or she's just romantically involved with him. Well, he could have been married to her.
She says, remember there's that scene, she's like, oh, I'll never get married. So like it's implied there. We didn't even talk about it, but there's like this like kind of weird, maybe mini love story he has with this like British Irish woman.
That kind of goes nowhere and serves no purpose.
There's a brief scene with the IRA just to be like, hey, I mean, I'm sure he probably, if he was a revolutionary, maybe did have contact with the IRA. Like,
why would he?
That doesn't seem like a crazy thing, but yeah, it doesn't really go anywhere. I guess it's worth shouting out. It exists in the movie.
And you know what I wonder? I don't know, how much research you did, but they were initially trying to cast Irfan Khan as Sardar Udham Singh, which I don't know, like. I would have liked to have seen that because I'm a fan of Irfan Khan. He's such an interesting actor.
He does have like this like quiet, like he could do quiet menace well.
But like Vicky Kaushal is so good that like it doesn't matter.
No,
Irfan Khan told them to cast Vicky Kaushal. He was like, he was like, I have to step out because of health issues. Obviously, I mean those health issues I think ended up being what ended up killing him. Yeah, but he was like, you guys need to cast Vicky Kaushal. So, but if we had gotten an Irfan Khan version of this movie, which if he had not passed away and gotten sick, we would have. Man, that would have been interesting. And it would have been him as older Udham Singh and then his son as young Udham Singh, which I think would have worked better because it is kind of hard sometimes to tell where these scenes are taking place outside of the fact. And the funny thing is that you start giving him different kinds of facial hair to tell. It's like, he doesn't have any now, so this must be London. He has some now, must be in Punjab. Okay.
With actually the funny that like the really young Udham Singh, like the first couple scenes I saw him was like, who is this guy? Like, I didn't even recognize him. I was like, who is this guy? And I was like, and then I sit with the girl and I'm like, oh, wait, is that supposed to be him? Like back, that's his girlfriend. I didn't know if I was stupid or what, but
I was with you. Of scenes I was with you.
I didn't actually recognize him. I was like, oh, is this just a random, like, I don't know. I thought he'd just a friend or something. Because that did happen in the movie where you just be introduced to these like random characters who would be in a scene or two, sometimes to like push the story forward. Sometimes they were an inspiration. So I thought it was that same mechanism.
Well, and they even have Bhagat Singh in the movie for like a second. It's just so I also
strange. Didn't really get that. Yeah, that I didn't get. But
again, it really feels more like the movie should have been called like, Jallianwala Bagh or something to that effect. Like Udham Singh in his own movie kind of feels like an afterthought in a way,
Yeah.
and to the success of the movie, but also if you do a scene like that scene at the end of the movie, you can't help but forget everything else. Like, can't blame me for forgetting that there was another movie before I watched all these people get gunned down. So, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely a movie worth checking out. It's an interesting kind of style of Indian cinema that I haven't seen because it is so very influenced by Western film. But at the same time, like I said before, like I wouldn't have watched this movie if it had been a Western version. So
Yeah.
Vicky Kaushal's performance is so good that it does kind of carry me through the entire movie. But yeah, I don't know if I would go back to this one. This was like a one-time watch, I think, probably.
You mean the 2-time watch?
But I mean, like outside of watching it for this, like I don't think I will go back for a second watch outside of the times I watched it here.
I'd have to agree, but I don't watch movies more than once often anyway. But this definitely wouldn't be one of them for me. I think one and done. Like it's good to. I feel like I like that I learned something.
Right. I mean, by the end of it, you feel like you understand a singular moment in the Indian freedom movement, like a catalyzing moment. I feel like by the end of this movie, I understand that more. Obviously, with a lot of these movies that I have been watching for this show and for the Indian Cinema Month that I had been doing over at the Culture Cast, a lot of the movies involve, like Triple R, involve the British and their, occupation of India and how that affected the relations between Indians and Brits and the other countries and Indians with other Indians. Like I really appreciate that they constantly have a villain that they can go to in their cinema that is completely justified, and they will probably never get old of killing British people in their movies, and I would not blame them for getting tired of it or never getting tired of it. But what's really interesting is to see a more kind of serious look at how it affected people. Because like Thugs of Hindostan, Triple R, like those are flights of fancy. Like, yes, it's serious. And yes, there are stakes, but a guy punching another guy with tigers and fire and shit in the background, it's not the same emotional intensity of this movie. And that's okay. Yeah. But to your point, like, I appreciate that this movie is like, all right, you could go watch Lagan and see, the cricket version of the Indian freedom movement. But this really happened. This man's life or this moment in his life was important. And again, as a Westerner who had no frame of reference for, Jallianwala Bagh or Udham Singh, like it put me on a path to research it more, just like yourself, and look into it and inform myself. And if that is one of the outcomes of watching this movie, as far as I'm concerned, it's a success. Is it the best, most entertaining Indian cinema movie I've seen? No. Is it in the lower third of the movies I've seen? Yeah, I would probably put it there because it's just...
Oh, wow.
It's not that it's bad. Like you said, it's not that it's bad. It's just, I don't want, it's like Saving Private Ryan. I don't want to revisit it because I get it. Like I get it. I've seen it. I understand.
But is your threshold of good or bad as if you want to revisit it? Like
some of it depends. It from movie to movie. There again, like what did this movie fill me with was more of like anger and rage and, thankfulness that this is not going on in India anymore. But it didn't induce a reaction in me that would want me to feel that again. Does that make sense? I didn't feel when I got done watching this movie, I was like, I want to watch more of these movies. Yeah. I want to watch more Indian cinema, but not these like deathly serious, very like we're gonna educate you about something. Like I just don't need it like right now.
I guess like the thing I'd argue is like because we both did have like an emotional reaction like of like how unjust it was. Maybe I'm sure that is what the director wanted to get. So like
right.
Maybe it was like subtly more effective, if not as like a narrative device, as like just like evoking a reaction.
Right. I mean, you live in the UK. I mean, this is, this movie was kind of not allowed to be part of the Academy Awards. I don't know if you looked into it, but there is the Academy, I guess, was like, this movie has a lot of hatreds toward the British. No shit. Like, like, I think to your point, Shoojit Sircar, I think he got his message across, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Forbes named it the best Hindi movie with a social message. I mean, if that was the point, was to give us the message, less the entertainment, I think it was successful in that respect as well. So again, for me, it's on the lower third only because I don't want to revisit it. Like I don't even know if I would tell other people to watch it unless I knew that they had an interest in Indian history or history in general.
Yeah.
Like there are so many other Indian cinema movies that I would push someone to first. This is not that. This is so just different. And it's not that it's not fun. It's just, it's serious. And
it's not fun.
It's not fun. I mean, it's not. There's like no, like the comedy in the movie is almost relegated to one scene where he's pushing the bowl back out and that's it. And then the next scene is him being force fed. So there goes all the comedy in about 2 seconds, just fizzled into the air. So yeah, it's about as serious a movie as I've seen in a very long time. So final thoughts on Sardar Udham.
I liked it, didn't love it, but it definitely is a like effective piece of storytelling. It drags on too long, and I think it loses some of its heft because of that. But it has like a truly amazing lead performance, and it's definitely worth seeing if you're interested in like Indian history or like colonial history, or if you like biopics. But to your point, it's probably not like the pinnacle of Indian cinema, but you don't need to be worthy of a watch.
No.
So
I agree. You know, I think I'm glad I watched it. I don't think I would have searched this one out on my own. I think, you know, I would have read about it and said, sounds interesting, but not for me. Because again, these just not the kind of movies I watch, but I'm glad I watched it. And I'm glad that now I have a better understanding, a continued education in Indian freedom and what that means. Because again, as a Westerner, I don't understand that. I mean, I maybe understand it a little bit more because of my dad's family having ties to Ukraine and what's going on there right now, but it's not the same. It's not, you know, and even I mean, all occupations aren't the same. It's not 1-to-1. So I'm really glad you picked this movie, but yeah, I don't know if I'll be revisiting it, but I know some people that I think would definitely enjoy it. So there is that at least. So until then, you can find Yashar and I over at weirdingwaymedia.com, where we do our 2 other little shows, the Last of Us podcast and the Game of Bros House of the Dragon show, which is currently on a hiatus until the 2nd season of that show comes out. So you can find this show and those shows and all the other shows that I work on and that Yashar guests on or we work on together over at weirdingwaymedia.com. As for this show, BollywoodCinemaClub.com, and on iTunes, rate and review the show. That's all you need to do because, hey, that's where everybody goes is iTunes. So head on over to iTunes, rate and review the show. Or Spotify, but no, there's no way to rate and review shows on Spotify. You know that, right?
Yes, there is.
Is there?
You can't write a review, but you can rate with stars.
5 stars.
The algo, bro.
If I don't if it's not a 1-star or a 5-star, does it really matter?
It's all about the algo.
Dat
algo.
But yeah, that's where you can find us. That's where you can find me. That's where you can find Yashar. And Yashar, thank you so much for joining me. This was great. Again, never know what we're going to get into with Indian cinema, but here we are. So, and as always, we'll catch you on the next episode.